All right, guys, happy Wednesday and welcome into episode number 25 of AL.com Recruiting, brought to you by Southern Orthopedic Surgeons, here for the athlete in all of us. I'm your host, Simone Eli, alongside Ben Thomas, covers all the things high school sports throughout the state of Alabama. Our producer behind the scenes is Patrick Greenfield. We've got a stacked show today, guys, as we are entering kind of the last month of the high school football season. Recruiting really ramping up now that we are 6 weeks into the college football season as well. We've seen a lot of guys take a lot of visits. So a lot to talk about today, Ben. We have revamped A-list, our spotlight performances. It's going to be a big day.
Yeah, I mean, it's that time. We had some big commitments like over the weekend, and A-list we revamped. Kind of, not a whole lot of change, but there was one new entry who moved, close to the top, and so we'll talk about that. That's on AL.com. You can check it out as we talk about it, but excited to get it started today.
Good stuff. And to kind of kick things off today with episode 25, we are super pumped to bring in the one and the only Kieth Etheredge, the head football coach at Auburn High School. Coach, I'm not just saying this because you're sitting here, but by far one of my favorite coaches to ever cover this. I mean, you are so loved by people in the media, your own players. Man, it's so awesome to see you have success there at Auburn in your first year. How are things going?
They're going great. Thank you for the kind words, Simone. I'll pay you later. But yeah, they're going great. I mean, these kids have really responded. We're getting better and better every week. We've got a tough road ahead of us. We're playing to get a home playoff game the next 2 weeks, and then we got IMG that last ball game. So.
Yeah, Coach, you're coming off the bye now. What do you think your team has learned after that Central loss, now looking to kind of bounce back?
Well, just, we can't turn the ball over against great teams like Central. They've got a great football team. Patrick does a great job with those guys. And, you can't make mistakes against real good football teams. And we knew that going in, we'd have to play pretty much a perfect game, to be in that game. And we played pretty good except for the turnovers. I think the turnovers sort of were the difference in the game. Sure. We turned the ball over twice. We gave up one big play, and that big play went for 6. And I think I told Ben before the game, you give up a big play to them, it's not a 10 or 12-yard gain. It's a 70 or 80-yard gain. So it's one of them things. You can't do those little things, and we've got to correct those little things and move on.
Coach, I need to take some lessons from you. You got all those blue maps sitting behind you there that we noticed those. I got nothing really behind me, so I need to have some look at some old
in my house, guys.
Those blue maps are because I've had great players. They're up there despite the coaching.
Yeah, that's not true. You've been very successful and for good reason. Hey, so let's talk about, if we can, move forward on the commitments. Obviously, big one on Sunday. Drew Bobo commits to Auburn. Yeah. Tell us about him.
Drew's a kid who can play any position on the offensive front. He can play center, guard, tackle. Of course, he plays offensive tackle for us. He's a phenomenal player. He has good athletic ability. He's also a basketball player. He's got great feet. And he's a player's. He's a coach's kid, so he understands the game. He works tremendously hard in the weight room and off the field. Is a great student in the classroom. So he's pretty much the total package. And I think he's going to be a kid that comes in and helps Auburn, pretty quick.
Coach, a lot of times when we see guys commit to schools where they have a connection, in this case, Mike Boa, the offensive coordinator at Auburn, sometimes it's easy for folks to say, okay, he's going there because he's got a parent there, he's got a shoe in the door, whatever. But it seems as though, Drew Bobo is legit. He's a guy that's going to help this Auburn team, especially where they kind of need it right now.
Right. He's a kid that can, he's one of those, he's almost like a chameleon. He can play any of those positions up front. So you can put it in any place up front, and he's gonna glue himself right in there. And it's good to have those guys. Not very rarely do you find a kid that can go at the SEC level and play center and then also step out and play tackle. So, he's 6'5". He's got a great frame, but he's athletic enough where he can, he's our other center, but we got to have him at tackle. But if anything happens to Joe Frazier, who plays center for us, he goes to center. So he's a kid, and all the time he's been here, every snap he's made for us, never had a bad snap at center. He grades out over 90% almost every single game, so he's a solid player.
Coach, he told me that Georgia, where his father's alma mater, and Kentucky really were in it for him, and that his dad had always told him not to go, not to make a choice based on his where his job status was. But you told me some interesting things on Sunday just about you're coaching your son right now and how meaningful that is for him. Can you speak on that, about how that relationship over the next couple of years will be?
Yeah, and it's tough as a coach because you don't get to spend a lot of time with your kids. I mean, you get home 8:30 at night. You get to see your kids when they go to bed. You're up and gone probably before they wake up in the morning. So it's tough during season. Off season, you're home a little more, but you're still up early, leaving before they even get up. So, and at the college level, think about how much worse it is. You got to recruit, you got to do all those things. And so, with my son, these last 4 years have been very special to me. And at a college level, Drew's got an opportunity to go play for his dad. He's got an opportunity to strengthen that bond, to spend 4 years, 5 years, under his dad, and, be able to be with him. And that means something, I know Coach Bobo told him, you do what's best for you. You don't just make decisions, based on that. But that's as a kid, I talked to Drew, and, that's got to be in your mind. That's got to be, hey, this is my dad. I want to play for my dad. I want to, when he gets there and his dad gets on him pretty good, he may not want to be there anymore. But, but there's an expectation that comes with that too. Like I tell my son, I feel sorry for him sometimes because I ride him pretty hard. I ride him a lot harder than I do the other kids. And I told Drew, we spoke about that. You got to expect that when you get there. So there's expectations when you take on that. There's also expectations, but you get the opportunity to play with your dad and spend that time with him. And it's going to be a special 4 or 5 years for them. I guarantee it.
Really special stuff. Let's not forget that y'all get home so late you don't have a lot of time with your coaches' wives either. Okay,
absolutely.
Put out there for all of us around the state that don't get a lot of love.
Special woman to be a coach's wife.
No doubt. And you have a very special one for sure. All right. Another guy headed just right down the road to Auburn for you is Powell Gordon, coach. A guy who's been committed there for a minute now. I mean, someone you inherited. What's he like as a player on and off the field?
Unbelievable. High energy kid on the field, very ultra competitive, great athlete. You see him and you're like, okay, 6'3", 6'4", moves good. My first time I met him, he's not a superimposing kid when you meet him. But then, they're out there shooting basketball, and he comes over. We talk for a little while. He goes back out there in basketball, and I said, he getting down the court pretty good. Ball comes off the rim. He jumps up and just tomahawk jams it 2 hands. I'm like, whoa. So phenomenal athlete, and his motor runs. He's a great leader, is one of those kids. He's not a rah-rah guy, but he is a leader by example. I mean, he really does do everything the right way in the weight room, in the classroom. He's very high GPA kid, high ACT, so he's a quality young man, and he has been an ultimate pleasure to coach.
Sure.
He's been great in high school. I mean, I saw him in the championship game last year. He was awesome. Where does he fit in a college defense like Auburn, Coach? What is his position there?
I think he's going to end up playing some linebacker. I think he'll end up playing some linebacker, and he'll be one of those guys who can walk down and come off the edge also. He's one of those guys who would do great in coverage against backs and things, so you can expect him matching up with running backs and things like that. He's so athletic that he can do a multitude of things. Auburn's going to have an opportunity if they want to put some weight on him. He can be that edge rusher, But if they want him to stay slim and keep that speed, he can line up at linebacker and play. So.
Coach, this being your first season here at Auburn, you've been there for a few months now. To have guys go to Auburn How meaningful is that? There's something about Auburn, I'm sure, wanting to kind of keep a gate around their own community and the ball players that they have right there in their own backyard. There have been times where, guys have gone across the state. Obviously, everyone has a personal decision to make, but to have a couple of guys go right there, how meaningful is that?
It's meaningful, and when I took this job, they even talked about that. The people on the committee, we had conversations about guys leaving Auburn High School and going to other schools, but that's a preference for the family. That's the decision the family has to make. You can't pressure, you don't want to pressure a kid into deciding where he wants to go, because if it don't work out, then it's kind of on you. You want a kid to feel, comfortable with his decision and go where he feels like he's loved. Sure. I tell these kids all the time, don't go somewhere because it's a D1 school or a D2 school, or go somewhere where you think you fit in. And when you commit there, that's what you need to. When commitment meets commitment, go. And that goes for the high school kids and the college coaches. I think some of the college coaches want these kids to commit and stay with their commitment, but the college coaches have to stick with that too. Because sometimes those kids commit and they can, they end up, right before signing day, ended up saying, "Oh, we don't have enough spots," or Sure. So I think that goes both ways. But I think Auburn wants to keep the kids that are able to play at the SEC level in the city of Auburn. And I think that's special. He's here, and me and Ben's talked about it, and he's waiting for an Auburn offer, and he's a good one too. So we want to keep them all as close as possible. It feels a lot better if I can just go 5 miles down the road and watch them play.
Watch them play, no doubt.
Yeah, I was going to ask, Coach, how big a benefit is that to have, SEC University football power right down the road where these kids can go, they're playing on Friday night. They can just go over there 5 minutes or whatever to the game. How big is that?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's awesome. It's an awesome situation for our kids. I think it's, it's good for the Auburn football, Auburn University, because, they can come right down the road and watch them play a game when it's not dead season, and we have 2 coaches' sons that play on this team. So, Coach Harson's son is a sophomore quarterback, and Drew Bobo is an offensive lineman. So, you see those guys a lot, and, your kids know who they are, so, I mean, it makes it great for both.
Cool.
Well, speaking of, you got another prospect, several prospects on the offensive line, but one guy people are talking about right now, Eston Harris, who transferred over from Beauregard this summer. I understand he may be getting close to a decision. What do you know about him?
EJ is a tremendously athletic young man. He was he's a little raw because he's so athletic. He was at Beauregard. He played on the defensive and offensive line. He got over here. He wanted to hone his craft. He wanted to just focus on playing on the offensive line because really that's where his bread's buttered. And I think EJ's a kid that can play, after college. He's one of those kids that will have an opportunity to play on Sundays.
Coach, before we started the show, you brought up one of your guys who you really enjoy coaching, one of the best you've said that you've maybe ever coached. That's Bradyn Joiner. Another offensive line guy. Tell us about him. Man, you got it stacked up there in the front.
Yeah, we do. We're pretty good up front on offense, and it allows us. Braden's actually playing on the defensive line this year.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah, Braden's playing that. He's playing the 3 technique and the 1 technique for us, and and he'll move over some when we get in the playoffs. He'll play some offensive line for us because, again, that's where his bread's buttered. I mean, he's going to be an all-state defensive lineman for us this year, no doubt. I mean, the other day we're in there and he's power clinging 350 like he's picking up nothing. So strong young man, very, very, very for 325, he's 6'3", 325. He moves so well, and his first punch is amazing. So you got Eston Harris, you got EJ, those guys on the offensive front, and you have Avery Weiss plays a guard, and a guy named Eric Patrick plays a guard. Those 2 guys are solid at those 2 guards. And then we have Joe Frazier, who's the son of Joe Frazier, who played at Auburn, playing center for us. So we're solid up front.
Coach?
Yeah, we're pretty good up front on offense, and then on the defensive front, Bradyn gives us that big push we was looking for. in the middle. We have Jimmy Vickerstaff and we have Powell Gordon on our edge, and we also have a young man named Mark Tolbert. He also plays on that edge, and Bradyn gives us that push up front that we need. And we also have Malik Mason, who's a kid that's from Virginia that moved in this summer, and he's been big for us up front too. So I think that we're starting to gel a little bit, and I think that we're gonna make some noise when it comes playoff time.
Sure.
Coach, you mentioned Bradyn's playing a lot of defense this year. What is he in? Is he offensive or defensive guy in college, you think?
I think I think he's an offensive guy. I think he can play either, but at a very, very high level, he's an offensive guy. He's an interior lineman. He's a center. He's a guard, and he's a dominant at either one of those places. He's one of those kids who, like I said, that first punch just stuns people, and once he gets his hands on you, you're not really going anywhere.
And one more question about Eston. Do you think his commitment is coming soon? Is he getting ready to do something?
I think it's going to be in the next week or so. Eston's one of those kids who he plays everything pretty close to the vest, and he's real quiet, but he really don't open up until he gets to know you. And then when he opens up, he's hilarious to be around. We call him Big J.
I like it. I love that. Coach, obviously you're at Auburn now, but you've had such an impact on so many guys' lives. You're obviously just at Oxford, won a state championship there. A big part of that was the Fegans brothers, Tre'Quon Fegans, who recently decommitted from Miami and has a lot of options on the table. A heck of an athlete who's over at Thompson now. I'm sure you've had conversations with him. I know these guys reach out to you and look for advice. What's that been like with Tre'Quon?
Tre'Quon's one of those kids who he's just a great kid to be around. Tremendous athlete. Like I tell everybody all the time, he could go up to the offensive side and be a 1,500, 2,000 yard running back. He's just that kind of athlete. Wow. Returns kicks, phenomenal hands. Length is just unbelievable. And I've talked to Tre'Quon a couple of times. Just sort of keeping up with him, and just told him how proud I was of him, how great of a year he's having, so I probably hear from him about once a month. We talk about once or twice a month. And, with his commitment, when he committed to Miami, I sort of felt like I thought he would stay closer to home, and that's of course completely up to him and his family. He's got a good family, close family knit group around him. I talk to his dad probably once or twice a week. Me and him call and cut up with each other, and he's a good friend of mine that I've had for probably the last 4 or 5 years. And our family's pretty close.
Coach, if things go well for him, you might see him on the other side of the field in Birmingham down the road, huh?
I hope so. I mean, I don't want to see him on the other side, but I would like to be there to see him on the other side.
Yeah.
Coach, before we let you go, on that note, this team that you've inherited is coming off an incredible season, but an unforgettable final game as well. One that I'm sure is a very big motivating factor for a lot of the guys in your locker room. What has that been like when it comes to motivation day to day? I mean, I know you can't really look ahead from your week to week stuff, because that's how you slip up, of course. But sure, it's in the back of their minds that there's missed opportunities, and they would love to finish this one in Birmingham this year.
Yeah, they definitely would. We don't have a whole lot of starters coming back from that group. I think there was 2 guys on the offensive side that are back, and both of those were offensive linemen that played different positions last year. I think Joe Frazier, who's our center now, played guard last year, and Avery Ferris played tackle, and he's playing guard for us this year. So those are the only 2 really starters on offense that are back. And then on the defensive side, I think we got 3 or 4 guys back. Of course, Powell Gordon. And then you have Jimmy Vickerstaff played a little bit. Carson Yancey played some. And then, of course, Brad Harper, who's our middle linebacker, who's getting a lot of attention right now also as far as a big-time recruit. So I think those 4 guys basically played a little bit on defense. So, it's kind of a situation where a lot of these guys wasn't actually playing a lot last year, but they were on the sideline and they got to witness everything that went on. And the guys who are definitely out there, you could tell by conversations that I've had with them that they're they're foaming at the mouth to get back to that position and try to make things right.
Coach, good stuff. We appreciate it. Overall, you enjoyed it over there now and back in 7A and do your thing?
Yes, it's been great. It's been great. Got great leadership here at the high school and in the school system and in the city. Ron Anders, is a great guy. He does a lot for us. So, it's been a blessing for me and my family, and, getting to coach Cam this year as his senior year here at Auburn High School at a high level, he's playing pretty good. So we've been really excited. It's been great for our family.
That's good
Coach,
stuff.
I don't have any of those blue maps, but I do have this prize Brett Michaels Poison bobblehead doll here. I'm gonna put it behind me for my next show.
Yeah, do it.
Kieth Etheredge, that's
Guns N' Roses, right?
Poison, man, all poison, baby.
All right. Well, before we get too crazy talking about music I'll never listen to, Coach, appreciate your time. Coach, appreciate your time, man. You're one of a kind. So well loved in the media and by your own players and staff, man. We appreciate it, and best of luck the rest of the way this year.
Thank y'all, guys. God bless.
Thank you, Coach.
Guys. All right, guys. Kieth Etheredge, the head football coach at Auburn High School, has a couple guys going to Auburn, a couple guys looking to make a decision, and Ben, good stuff there. Appreciate you putting that together to get Kieth Etheredge on the show. Let's move forward a little bit. We're going to kind of hyperspeed it through the last little bit of what we got with the show. I want to start with kind of the revamped A-list, Ben. You put this out, a couple changes to that in terms of some guys that are some well-known names throughout the state.
Yeah, I mean, we won't stay on it too much, Simone, but it is on AL.com if you want to go check it out. It posted Sunday, so you can still find it there. But I guess the main thing here is Shamar James is now number 4. Shamar wasn't on the original A list because that was during the 2-week period that he went to Navarre, Florida. Yeah. So he is now on it. He would have been on it had he been in Alabama. He is now on it at number 4. By the way, he did get injured last week in Faith Academy's game against Viger. He tells me it's a mild ankle sprain that he hopes to come back. I don't know whether that'll be this week or whenever, but hopefully he can get back and get in that lineup. The other thing, a lot of the other guys, Khurtiss Perry moved way up. We had him on number 10 originally. He's the top uncommitted guy in the state right now, Simone. He is saying he's going to narrow his list down to 5, I think, this week. So he's getting closer to commitment. And, of course, the top guy, the same as it's been for 3 years probably in this classification, Jeremiah Alexander, the Thompson commit. Yeah. Star of the number 1 defense in the state, number 1 team in the state that I think's allowed like 26 points all year. Simone with Fegans and all those, Peter Woods and Tony Mitchell. I mean, just a star-studded attack there. So those are kind of the key things. Not really anybody, everybody else is kind of the same. A few people dropped in or a few people moved up. Caden Story moved up. He's had a great year. The Auburn commit from Lynette. He's really been a disruptive force on the defensive line for his dad, Coach Story. TJ Dudley has been a star for Oregon. So the people you would expect to do well have done well. And, of course, we'll reevaluate this again, after the Super 7 in December for our final rankings of the 2022 class.
Good stuff. I know that Alabama and Auburn fans love to see a lot of Bama and Auburn there on the list of commitments for some of the biggest guys in the state. Let's look at our spotlight performances from this week and start with Central quarterback Caleb Nix, of course, the younger brother of Bo Nix, the Auburn University starting quarterback. Some big numbers there from Caleb this past week, Ben.
Yeah, against Prattville, they played Prattville. They had beaten Coach Etheredge's Auburn team the week before. They come back with a solid win against Prattville, 345 yards and 5 TDs. Caleb obviously not getting as much attention as his older brother did. Bo won Mr. Football his senior year, was one of the top prospects in the state. But he is getting some good looks. He got some good offers, Austin Peay, Dartmouth, La Monroe, Sanford, Troy. Any of those spots will be good for him. But if he continues at this pace, Simone, and then they can get, past Auburn and whoever their threats are in the South and maybe get to the championship game against a Thompson or a Hoover or whoever's there. Yeah. A lot of people will really I think there'll be a lot of eyes on that on that 7A title game because there's going to be a lot of prospects in that game no matter who's there.
No question. All right, over at Geneva County, this is a guy we talk about almost weekly, Emmanuel Henderson, the Bama running back commit, had another big day. He's just having an unbelievable year.
Yeah, there's only been like 2 games. Like there's one game where they had a lot of guys out with COVID and he only carried it like 5 or 10 times in the first half and didn't play. There's one game he missed totally with an injury. But when he's been out there, Simone, with his full team, he's been what you expect him to be. I mean, you see it there, 10 carries, 220 yards, 3 touchdowns rushing. He also threw a touchdown pass at the end of the half. So a guy that can do everything and continues to be a flag bearer for this Alabama class. And he's going to be a great player, great kid off the field. I mean, he's going to be a really solid citizen when he gets to Alabama, and I'm going to look forward to watching him play the rest of this year and in the future at Alabama.
Yeah, when 30% of your carries are go for a score, that's kind of impressive.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty good. All right, a couple last week before, we had Quinshon Judkins on the show live. His commitment to Ole Miss, and then having him on the show inspired him to have a pretty impressive game last week and make our top performances, Ben.
Hey, we gotta give props to our guy Quinshon, Simone. He was the first guy to come on the show and commit, but he deserves it. I mean, 9 carries, 144 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a 70-yard touchdown reception. And they just Pike Road is the number 1 team. They're still the number 1 team in 5A. They're the favorites to win the state title. And they got some stars. Khurtiss Perry, as we mentioned, the big star on defense. They got a guy, Simone, we haven't mentioned him, but Anthony Rogers is just a freshman for that team. He's a tailback behind Quinshon, and he is going to be a guy we're going to be talking about, in the future, assuming they don't cancel our fine show here, Simone, which I don't think they will, hopefully. So we're going to be talking about him soon. But, Quinshon, another great game. Like this guy, like the fact that he came on the show with us, and they're going to be, I'd be surprised if we didn't see them at the Birmingham.
No doubt. All right, we're going to wrap the show with our spotlight game from this week. It's in 6A with number 1 team in 6A, Clay-Chalkville, taking a trip to Pinson Valley. Athletes all over the board in this one, but Clay-Chalkville has been as dominant as ever. This is also a big rivalry game, as these 2 teams are about, a stone's throw away. Sometimes they share some athletes that they'd rather not share, Ben, but a lot of big names in this one.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like I try not to spotlight the same teams over and over again, Simone, but a lot of the same prospects are bunched up on those teams. Caleb Johnson's a guy. Yeah, incredible. Caleb Johnson's a guy maybe we haven't talked about enough. He committed to Louisville. He's been committed to Louisville for a while. He's had a great year at quarterback. Marquarius White, they call him Squirrel, is a Tennessee commitment. Clay-Chalkville is just they've been impressive in every game. They're the number 1 team in Class 6A right now. They're going up against the Pinson Valley team that is the reigning 6A champs. Zach Power, and I understand, Patrick, if you can flash those Pinson stats on there, our Pinson guys. Zach Power, as you see, recently we talked to him. Was it last week, Simone? We talked about him. He committed to Georgia Tech, I believe, last week. I've talked to him actually today, and he says he will. He'd been out. They didn't play last week, and he had been out a couple of games with injury, but he tells me he is going to play in this game against Clay-Chalkville. And you see the other studs they got there. So this should be a good one. I mean, I think Clay has to be the favorite. I mean, they're undefeated and number 1 team in the state, but Sam Shade and those guys at Pinson, they sneak up on people, and this could be a game with Zach coming back where they're ready to go.
Certainly could be, Ben. Good stuff. Anything you want to add before we sign off?
No, I just mentioned again that Khurtiss Perry's supposed to narrow down his list to 5, I think, on Friday, so we'll be watching for that. Rodney Johnson, Gadsden City defensive back, we mentioned him last week in our spotlight game going up against Thompson. He was going to commit. He actually that's been updated, our little stat there. He was supposed to commit this weekend, but just this week has decided to wait on that. I think he's got some more offers and interest coming in, so he's not quite ready to commit yet. But should be a good week, and then, of course, next week will be a big week with Thompson and Hoover. Probably the first of maybe 2 meetings they'll have in the next 4 or 5 weeks, but there'll be a lot of hype around that game. And also this week, Oak Mountain's playing Thompson. I just had one spotlight game this week because that seems like we always are talking about Thompson, but Oak Mountain and Evan Smith going up against that Thompson defense will be something to watch, the Northwestern commit.
It certainly will. Less than a month to go in the regular season of the high school football season. Of course, every game matters, especially in region play when it comes to playoff contention. But, guys, fantastic show today. I want to send a big thank you to Kieth Etheredge, the head football coach at Auburn High School, for joining us live. Great commentary. Really appreciate that. Ben Thomas, Patrick Greenfield behind the scenes with all the graphics, running the board, doing all the things. We appreciate you guys so much. And I want to thank our sponsor, Southern Orthopedic Surgeons, here for the athlete in all of us. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and we will see y'all next week.